But Marjorie, welcome to the program. Great to have you as always.
Thank you so much, Dinesh, and I'm very glad that you're going to stay out of women's sports. So thank you for that.
I'm quite a sprinter when I need to be, so you gotta be glad for that. But let me ask you, psychologically, you've been now in DC for a couple of months. You've taken, I think, more heat than most. You've seen the kind of swamp and the cesspool that DC is. Sort of psychologically, how are you holding up? How are you doing?
Well, this has been an unbelievable 2 months. I was just talking with my staff this morning. I am the most attacked member of Congress in such a short time as a freshman member and a woman. To add that to it, I've done nothing wrong. They can't even file a report on me in the ethics committee, but yet the media has attacked me unbelievably. The Democrats have kicked me off of committees for no reason. And now, we had them introduce a resolution to have me expelled again for no reason. I have committed no crime. I've done nothing wrong as a member of Congress. And even as a candidate, some people are just still offended for some things on social media years ago that I publicly apologized to, about and to the whole world. But I refuse to back down and stop standing firm in who I am and in my conservative values. And I continue to work hard to hold people accountable in the swamp. And I think that's what offends them most.
What do you make of this craziness of Democrats? I mean, they're in the majority party trying to kick out of Congress an elected representative of the opposing party, not to mention the fact that you've got people like Eric Swalwell, you've got people like Ilhan Omar, and these are people who have had far more unsavory associations than you have. And evidently, not only is it fine to have them in Congress, but they often are members of influential committees.
Oh, absolutely. You nailed the point. And that's what I've been saying, Dinesh. We have Eric Swalwell, who had a sexual relationship with a Chinese spy, sits on the Intel committee. The Chinese spy even put interns in his office and helped him raise money, but yet he still sits on the powerful Intel committee. And just last week, Nancy Pelosi protected him when Republicans made a move to have him kicked off of his committees. We also have our sitting Vice President, Kamala Harris, who shared the Minnesota Freedom Fund bail bond link, asked for people to donate money to bail out criminals who had just rioted in Minnesota, burning cities, looting stores, attacking police officers, federal building, and innocent people. This is our vice president. And don't forget, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar did the same thing. The list goes on and on. We could go back to Maxine Waters calling for Trump supporters to be attacked wherever you can find them in the streets, and the words of violence and just flat out support for insurrectionists, right? Antifa and BLM riots that this nation had to endure over the past year. Democrats are the hypocrites, and they never change their colors. They continue to lie and attack people that they fear the most. And clearly they're afraid of me.
We're hearing a lot these days about gun control in the wake of the Atlanta mass shooting and now the Boulder mass shooting. I think what's interesting about it is that you have these mass shootings and they're horrific and they do kill a lot of people, 10 people, for example, in the Boulder shooting. But here I have in my hand some data on Chicago. This was actually last year, 2020. Chicago reports 700 murders so far in 2020. The article was December 1, so that wasn't even the total for the full year. So think about it, 700 murders is the equivalent of 70 Boulder mass shootings. And so is it a peculiarity of human nature here that when something is normalized, we think it's okay? Whereas when you have the single mass shooting, it's anomalous and people go, oh, let's get a hold of the guns. They don't want to get a hold of all the guns that the gang members have in Chicago on the streets. And we're not just talking about Chicago. It's the same story in St. Louis. St. Louis actually has the highest gun violence rate in the country. Chicago has more in numbers, but that's because Chicago's a bigger city. But it's the same story in Baltimore. It's the same story all over the place. What do you make of this sort of, what seems to me, rather selective indignation and demands for gun control when there should be a broader attention to social problems that go largely ignored?
Oh, Dinesh, this is the most important topic to be talking about. And our mainstream media does not want to talk about the very true facts that you just stated. You see, Democrats want gun control and they use any narrative to get it. Every single murder is horrible. Every single murder is wrong. Every single murder is against the law. But the Democrats pick and choose the murders that they want to use to pass the policies, and the policies they want is strict gun control, and they are going for it hard, and you're going to see it happen maybe within the next few weeks and definitely over the next month. You're going to see it in Congress, and you're going to see executive orders coming straight out of Joe Biden's White House. You see, we know that illegal guns are a problem, and it's most of those murders you talked about in cities like Chicago happen with illegal guns. Gun control of legal gun owners does nothing. Legal gun owners are the safest gun owners in the country, and they truly protect themselves, their families, and their businesses. So gun control laws are a complete violation of our Second Amendment. I'll be fighting them with everything that I have, alongside my strong Republican colleagues that truly believe and support the Second Amendment, because we cannot allow Democrats to take this away from legal gun owners. That's who they're punishing with these bans on assault weapons, putting gun owners on lists, red flag laws, and the list goes on and on. You see out in Boulder, they already had red flag laws in place. They already had mental health checks in place. But yet this man, who we've now found out is a Muslim extremist with strong views, radical views that way, went out and committed this mass shooting. And all of a sudden, the media's narrative has died down. The shooting in Atlanta needs to be talked about. This man admitted he had a sex addiction, and he's clearly mentally ill, and did a horrible, horrible thing by attacking these salons and places in some attempt to end his disgusting sex addiction. Those are the real stories, but the media wants it to be Asian hate crimes. They want it to be white men going out and committing mass shootings just so they can pass gun control. But again, that's a lying narrative, and we need to stick to the truth. And those are the facts that you laid out very, very well in the beginning.
You mentioned a phrase that caught my eye, and that is strong Republicans. The need for strong Republicans to obstruct, to block, to stop bad things from coming down the pike. Now, recently in South Dakota, they passed a fairly stringent and I think very sensible law that would prevent biological males from competing in women's sports. Kristi Noem, who appeared to be sympathetic to the law, seems to have met with the Chamber of Commerce, began to worry about, like, what will the NBA boycott South Dakota? Will we lose money in this transaction? What are the costs if we take a stance? And kind of went invertebrate on us on this. And Kristi Noem is not a bad person. She's on our side. What I want to get at is, and have you talk about, do you feel this kind of tug of both sides and this need to be strong? Because it seems like there's something in the Republican temperament, not in you, but in others, that buckles when the pressure begins to mount up, or when you begin to get competing pressures from the other side, or from, in this case, the Chamber of Commerce. Why would Kristi Noem have lost her backbone on this one?
I don't know. That is such a major mistake, because she had so much support leading into this. She's going to wipe out everything good she's done by not protecting girls and women's sports. Kristi Noem needs to do the right thing and keep the biological men out of women's private places like bathrooms, girls' sports, women's prisons, rape crisis centers, homeless shelters. Biological men don't belong there. The key issue is strong Republicans, period. When Republicans stand strong on our values and we don't back down and water down our messages and water down our bills, we win, and we fire up our base, and we bring more voters out to vote for us. This is how you fight back against the radical left. But being politically correct and trying so hard to work across the aisle, even though the other side of the aisle is socialist, communist, or flat out evil, destroying gender and God's creation, and wanting to put biological men in places they don't belong, that puts women and girls in danger. You see, that's where Republicans are failing Republican voters and failing America. And so, some people might not like maybe my direct language or President Trump's tweets, but that's what truth is. Truth is a sword, and sometimes it hurts and cuts, but truth is still truth, and we need to stand firm in it. And that's what Republicans need